Hello, this is Darren DePaul, the voice of Emperor Valkorion, and you're watching another video by Vulkk.
Hello my friends, greetings and welcome. This is going to be a live recording because I have some very special and important news, analysis, overview and discussion to follow up in the next, I suppose, 15 to 20 minutes. Those of you who are joining me live in the stream, please provide your feedback in the chat and we'll have a hopefully interesting discussion about the proposed class changes for Star Wars The Old Republic patch 5.3 that is landing in July. Bioware started today, Friday 9th of June, apparently, to share some insights as to what exactly changes are they planning to the classes. First, I'm going to read you the changes to the Assassin and Shadow, Assassin Hatred and Shadow Serenity. That's what we have for today. If they post something later tonight, I'll probably do a separate standalone video, but because we still have quite a bit of time until July when the patch is supposed to go live, there are quite a few more Fridays for Bioware to release those discussion topics on the official forums. How about we start taking a look? First, I'll actually scroll to the bottom and read together with you the reason for these changes officially stated by the combat team for BioWare. With the class changes coming in 5.3, we wanted to address several balance issues. One discipline that we found to be lagging behind its target DPS output was the Hatred Assassin and Serenity Shadow. Those two are mirror classes, just in case someone is new to the game and isn't aware. This is basically the same spec, but for the mirror Empire versus Republic. We changed several skills for this discipline to increase its DPS output. It's a dot spec. We wanted to help Hatred Serenity shine at what it's supposed to be known for, high sustained melee damage. So we increased the damage bonuses granted by Death Mark Force Suspension and Fulguration Rebounding Force to boost the dot damage from the discipline. Damage over time, that's what dot stands for. Increasing the periodic damage it deals and its overall DPS output. We also wanted Hatred and Serenity to be better at finishing off enemy targets, so we increased the effectiveness of Inevitable Demise and Aching Mind, which helps to boost its overall DPS output as well. Finally, we wanted to make force regeneration for Hatred Serenity a bit more consistent and increase the force cost efficiency for Leeching Strike and Serenity Strike. So we made some adjustments to Leeching Hunger, Seren Poise, and the amount of force restored by Fulguration Rebounding Force to achieve these goals. This should give players of Hatred and Serenity a smoother and more reliable source of force regeneration. This is BioWare's combat team designers' official statement as to what exactly they're doing with the class. And here are the few select changes. I'm going to actually first read the changes to you guys, and then I'll show you in game what their current state of this ability is. And then we'll have a short discussion as to why these changes are happening. Are they good? Who are they good for? And could they be better? First, increased force, these are for the Shadow Serenity, just because I've got my Shadow logged in and I can demonstrate in-game with the Shadow. No other reason. Increased force suppression's periodic damage boost from 10% to 15%. Switching very quickly. Ooh, it looks like someone has been logged out. Ugh. Who's trolling me there? Right, this is my Shadow. She looks more like an Imperial character, but believe me, it is a Shadow and currently spec'd for Serenity. So we've got the very first, that's my cheat here, we've got the very first ability, level 32, being, where the hell is it, Force Suspension. The current state of this ability is Force Imbalance now suppresses resistance to the force, increasing the amount of damage the target suffer from your next 15 periodic damaging abilities by 10%. And this thing lasts for about half a minute. This skill has been increased from 10% effectiveness to 15% effectiveness. I believe that's a good change. The next buff is to increase Rebounding Force's damage bonus for Sever Force from 10 to 15%. Switching back to the game, and we can find this ability Rebounding force, where was it? Rebounding force is a level 44 ability. Sever force deals 10% additional damage, and when your force technique deals damage, it restores 5 force. So, going back to rebounding force restores 3 force down from 5. So this actually looks kind of like a nerf when force technique deals damage. We just checked the ability description. Currently in the game, it gives you 5 force when it procs, but after the patch, it's going to go down to 3 force. And then increased the Aching Mind's low health damage bonus from 15% over to 30%. That, to me personally, seems like quite a bit of a buff. The Aching Mind is level 55. There we go. Force Imbalance, Squelch, and your periodic damage abilities deal 15% more damage on targets under 30% health. So this ability is still going to affect targets under 30% health, but it's going to boost the effect of the ability with 15% more, basically increasing not just the chance, as Bioware said, of finishing your opponent, but also increasing the overall DPS, which means the dot spec is going to be just a little bit more viable for encounters where you have to fight multiple targets, because when multiple targets are being lower than 30% of their HP, those abilities that you're using will be boosted with up to 30% instead of up to 15%. And that's actually an overall DPS increase. The last change is, in addition to its previous effect, Serene Poise now restores 4 force for each of your damaging periodic effects on a target damaged by your Serenity Strike. We're going to very quickly move back to the game, and Serene Poise is right here. Oops, it's right here actually, level 68 passive. The damage dealt by Serenity Strike is increased by 5% for each of your active periodic damaging effects on the target, and it stacks up to 3 times. Now, I don't know about you guys, but this seems to me like quite a big buff to force regeneration, because you have a lot of dots active usually, and you have them active all the time, and each one of them will be proccing, if I understand the statement from this post right here. So, in addition to the previous effect, Serene Poise will now restore 4 force for each of your damaging periodic effects on a target already damaged by Serenity Strike. Tell me, more experienced Shadow and Assassin, do you think this is a good buff? They are nerfing one of the force regeneration effects, but at the same time, they are seriously buffing another one. And not buffing, actually, they are adding new effect to an already existing skills. Now, a little bit of overview and analysis of the whole picture. I don't know if Bioware is planning to do these kind of changes to all of the classes, because this is just the first batch we are seeing today. To me, it seems like a good approach. We are in the middle of a cycle, and it's not exactly a good idea to introduce a new ability or completely alter another ability. I've seen on the forums that many people ask for this ability to be brought back to the class that was moved to the other class, or just switching abilities from one discipline to another discipline. These are probably cool things, but I imagine they take more time from however big the combat team for Bioware's engineers is, and maybe this will require some more time and more testing. Also, this is just class balancing. It's expected to be just like that, boosting some skills or eventually nerfing other skills. Based on what we've seen for the upcoming class changes, I think that so far, or at least for now, we're only going to see buffs. Now, correct me if I'm mistaken, but most of the disciplines listed here, plus a couple more that were not listed, but everybody wants them to be listed, like TK, for example. All of these disciplines need some love, and Serenity and Hatred are definitely getting some love. Whether these percentages from 10 to 15, 10 to 15, 15 to 30, and some nice power force regeneration, I think those would be enough. The discipline was really severely lacking based on its performance on the dummy. I've always been saying that if you want to be a good player, you shouldn't measure yourself with what you are parsing on a dummy in your ship. You should measure yourself against other players. And unfortunately, Hatred and Serenity, both of these disciplines, they were slacking and lacking seriously back behind pretty much everybody else. Combining that with the fact that it's a melee DPS class, still kind of undesired, even though the content is not nearly as challenging as it was 2, 3, 4 years ago when the True Nightmare was really challenging and popular. Today, Nightmare still exists in the form of Master Mode, but sadly it's not that popular anymore, and much less number of players are actually playing it. Now, I haven't actually really considered the PvP aspect of these buffs. It seems to me that this is a very strong buff for PvP as well, because you know that dots are pretty much the bane of every PvP player. Many of the dots are really hard to get rid of. It's really easy to restack them. Pretty much all of the classes that have dots have a way to spread those dots, and with PvP being everything in constant motion and everybody moving all the time everywhere, it's really hard to stay on target. That's why solid basic DPS specs like the older versions of Combat and Carnage, for example, for my favorite class, Sentinel Marauder, they were slacking back unless the player is really good or really experienced, because you don't get to damage the target and then move back or move to the side while the target is still taking some dots from your previous hits. So buffing dots may actually really have a really interesting and useful effect in PvP. If anybody amongst you guys is actually active PvPer with this spec, I highly doubt, because I believe pretty much nobody ever plays Hatred and Serenity currently, but maybe this spec will be revived. I've seen plenty of comments under several of my videos and in other places from ex-Serenity players or ex-Hatred players that really missed that class, but they were forced to move to something else because this discipline was just not viable and nobody was willing to take them for whatever run they are running. Yes, I do agree. This seems like a very big buff to force regeneration. I'm not really sure if it's needed. I'm not really sure if it's correct. Yes, they're nerfing one way of force regeneration, as I've said, but they're buffing, not buffing, introducing a brand new one. And in case you're not familiar with every dot spec in this game and probably in other games, the major portion of your damage output is coming from the dots. For my favorite class, the Sentinel and Marauder, the overall portion of the damage dealt when I'm playing Watchman and Annihilation is about 40, even more than 40, but let's say 35 to 40, 45% is coming from the dots, from the damage over time effects. And this is regardless of whether I'm playing on the dummy or in real boss fight. Much more chaotic, of course, and harder to analyze in PvP, because you really don't get to stay on target, and it's always different whether you get to apply your dots, how many of those dots, how many of them get cleansed, how high the target's HP is, how long you stay in combat, and God knows how many more variables. So yeah, this is my not so brief overview of the first proposed class changes. I think this is a very good decision. Simple changes, simple boost to already existing ability. They're not altering anything, but I don't think it's needed. Maybe some of you guys that would love to have a new ability or another ability brought back to your discipline, you would say, oh, that's crap, they're just buffing my already boring skills. But that's what class balancing should be about. In the middle of a season, or actually in front of the summer season, nobody should expect really big, gigantic, ginormous changes to any of the classes. I don't expect any of the other disciplines will receive something significant. Maybe more changes than just 4 abilities being affected, but this is not final. Have I said that in the beginning? None of these are actually final. These percentages might actually go up, go down, get completely deleted. Maybe new passives or new active abilities will be buffed or nerfed by the time July comes and 5.3 lands. It's also possible that some of these disciplines may be pushed back from 5.3 to 5.4 in August, because Bioware would not have enough time to fix everything and test everything. I'm really hoping they are testing things internally before they release them to eventually PTS and then eventually to the live servers. Now let's see, what do you actually think? Anybody who hates the changes coming to Shadow and Assassin? Just in case you guys are exclusively playing the Empire side, here are the changes quickly listed with the Empire terms. That marks periodic damage boost from 10 to 15, Fulguration's damage bonus for Creeping Terror from 10 to 15, Fulguration restores 3 force instead of 5 when Lightning Charge deals damage. Remember that Lightning Charge is a passive now and you don't really see the icon. Increased Inevitable Demise low health damage bonus from 15 to 30%, that's a huge increase. And in addition to its previous effect, Leeching Hugger now restores 4 force from each of your damaging periodic effects on a target damaged by your Leeching Strike. So it's not any target, okay, it's not any target, otherwise you would be constantly on 100% force. And then Clarify, I forgot of course to mention that, clarified the tooltip for Crackling Charge and clarified the tooltip for Force Focus. I don't know what exactly they mean by clarifying this. What has been clarified? What was not really clear? What was missing? I'm not really sure if it needed clarification or, yeah. Let's see. Natasha. On PvP, yeah, it's used, but actually being decent at big fights, it's pretty hard since you have no damage mitigation. Okay. Oh, you're speaking of lethality here. All right. Well, hopefully letality's turn will come soon enough. I believe I'm done with the overall presentation for these, and I'm going to wrap up this segment, and this will be a standalone video as I told you guys. If you want to share anything more, just leave a comment down below. Thank you for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the video. Click the like button and help me out. To help me improve and expand, consider becoming my patron with a small monthly pledge.